and get the best seat in the best row with the best view? You might be thinking you've got the best seat in the house, but you'd be wrong. Because when you're on your way to your intermission bathroom break with the tummy full of slushy, that's when you'll really experience the best seat in the house. The Joe, the Can, the Forbidden Water Slide. These are just a few names for the toilet. I mean, come on, something as magical as the crapper deserves to have over 100 different names. Most people don't know how phenomenal toilets actually are. Today I'm here to flush away the stigma and open the lid on one of life's greatest creations. To understand how beautiful this invention is, first we will plunge into the many historical things that have taken place on and because of the toilet. Next, we will slide down the path of the many uses of toilets. And finally, we will close the lid on the many disasters that have transpired because of the potty. Sometimes people take a very long time in the restroom, and usually they'd be considerate and let people know they're going to take a while. But Shamira Kikujiro didn't care how long he took on the loo, because he took so long that there was enough time for Japan to fire the first shots of the Second Sino-Japanese War. While his troops were waiting for him to get done tinkling, they decided it would be a good idea to try to break through the Chinese border, and a whole war started. But the real war is what was going on between Shamira's stomach and the food he ate for lunch that day. This isn't the only historical thing that has happened on the toilet, though. The idea for the first computer ever was actually invented while this guy was on the toilet. This guy's name was Douglas Engelbart. More like Engelfart, am I right? He invented the wee wheel to help potty train boys and men too. And that was the early makings of the first computer. So every time you use your computer, just remember, it was supposed to be a potty chair. Also, did you know that the average person spends 2,500 days on a toilet in their lifetime? No wonder we have so many great inventions. Speaking of inventions, people have gotten real creative with the way they use the Oval Office these days. You might have thought there was only one use for a toilet. Well, two. But they actually have a numerous amount of uses besides the two you're thinking of. One of the most unconventional and annoying uses of the toilet is when it acts as a personal phone holder. That feeling when your phone is slipping out of your back pocket is one that parallels true panic. 1 minute, you're in a 7-Eleven on day 3 of a juice cleanse, and the next, you're grabbing the cashier by the collar begging for a bag of fries. Oh, sorry, had a flashback there. Now, for this next use, if there's any kids in the room, you might want to plug your ears. Okay, here I go. One of the most common uses of the toilet is a fish graveyard. That's right. Parents use this all the time to flush their kids' dead fish down the toilet. Sometimes without them even knowing. I think you're sick if you do this, by the way. Mr. Bubbles, which I recently just found out was the third, deserved a real funeral, guys. And as you can imagine, this type of childhood trauma can lead you down a slippery slope, such as stealing a couple fancy Japanese bidets here and there. And next thing you know, you're in a jail cell learning how to use your latrine as a washing machine. The things you'll do for a little bit of Poseidon's kiss. Anyways, back to washing machines. You might be under the impression that this would make your clothes stinky or even grosser, but I've learned that as long as you give your toilet a good flush and add some soap in, you'll be good to go. Just make sure you do not choose to do it on Taco Tuesday, or else your whites may turn a little brown. Now, last but not least, let's clench on for dear life as we talk about toilet disasters. Throughout their colorful history, there has always been the good things to come with the commode, just as much as there has been the messy, Well, we gotta start off simple here with the story of your survival instincts kicking in. then, when the toilet paper roll runs out, people turn feral. They start searching for questionable wiping methods, start yelping for another member of the pack, and sometimes just go straight for the roll. But in medieval times, people had bigger things to worry about than just running out of toilet paper. Toilets in medieval times had a hole that led right to the outside. And one common disaster is that your enemy would climb up the toilet hole and take a slice of the cake, if you know what I mean. Our next incident involves a Tinder date gone horribly wrong. There's always the classic clogging the toilet on the first date cliche, and a normal person would just fess up or ditch the date. But this girl came up with her own very creative idea. She called it the left-handed litter box toss. And this idea might seem like an ingenious way to dump your droppings until your date calls to inform you that his beloved cat has used up all 9 lives, and that litter box you used has been feces-free for about 6 months. That must have been an awkward conversation. Our last disaster includes one of the most iconic and infamous celebrities. As we all know, living is very stressful, and I like to let out my stress by sitting on the toilet. And apparently, so did this guy. This smooth talker was found slumped over his lavatory just hours after he'd gone to the pot. The doctors say he died of stress on his heart and took his last plunge, you could say. Let's take a moment of silence for this legend, this phenomenon, my dog, King George II. Oh, George. Oh, sorry. In my research on kings, I also read something about this guy named, what was it? Elvis Presley. But I didn't recognize the name. And I've never seen a king wear sparkly pants, so I just assumed he was a nobody. But he did die in the toilet. Now, just as every toilet paper roll comes to an end, sadly, so did this speech. Today we first plunged into the vast amount of historical things that have taken place on and because of the toilet. Next, we slid through the many uses. And finally, we closed the lid on the many disasters that have transpired because of the potty. I hope you've all learned a little bit more about how awesome toilets really are. I know I'm feeling better now that I've relieved myself of this information. Actually, speaking of relief, I think I feel a fish funeral coming on. Has anybody seen the bathroom?